Hi, I'm Nick with History Explained, and today we're going to be talking about the Eastern Front of World War I. The war in the East began with the Russian invasion of East Prussia and the Russian invasion of the Austro-Hungarian province of Galicia on the 17th of August 1914. The first effort quickly turned to a defeat following the Battle of Tannenberg in August. A second Russian incursion into Galicia was completely successful, with the Russians controlling almost all of that region by the end of 1914, routing 4 Austrian armies in the process. Under the command of Nikolai Ivanov, Nikolai Russky, and Alexei Brusilov, the Russians won the Battle of Galicia in September and began the siege of Przemysl, the next fortress town on the road towards Krakow. This early Russian success in 1914 on the Austro-Russian border was reason for concern to the Central Powers and caused considerable German forces to be transferred to the east to take pressure off the Austrians, leading to the creation of the German Ninth Army. At the end of 1914, the main focus of the fighting was shifted to the central part of Russian Poland west of the river Vistula. The October Battle of the Vistula River and the November Battle of Łódź brought the little advancement for the Germans, but at least kept the Russians at a safe distance from Germany. The Russian and Austro-Hungarian armies continued to clash in and near the Carpathian Mountains throughout the winter of 1914 to 15, and the Przemysl fortress managed to hold out deep behind enemy lines throughout this period, with the Russians bypassing it in order to attack the Austro-Hungarian troops further to the west. They made some progress crossing the Carpathians in February and March 1914, but then the German reliefs helped the Austrians stop further Russian advances, and in the meantime, Przemysl was almost entirely destroyed, and the siege of Przemysl ended in a defeat for the Austrians. In 1915, the German command decided to take its main effort on the Eastern Front, and accordingly transferred considerable forces there. To eliminate the Russian threat, the Central Powers began the campaign season of 1915 with the successful Gorlice-Tarnow offensive in Galicia in May of 1915. After the Second Battle of the Masurian Lakes, the German and Austro-Hungarian troops in the Eastern Front functioned under a unified command. The offensive soon turned into a general advance, but into corresponding strategic retreat by the Russian army. The cause of the reverses suffered by the Russian army was not so much errors of the tactical sphere as the deficiency in technical equipment, particularly in artillery and ammunition, as well as the corruption and incompetence of the Russian officers. Only by 1916 did the buildup of Russian war industries increase production of war material and improve the supply situation. By mid-1915, the Russians had been expelled from Russian Poland and hence pushed hundreds of kilometers away from the borders of the Central Powers, removing the threat of Russian invasion of Germany or Austria-Hungary. At the end of 1915, German-Austrian advance was stopped at the line Riga, Jakobstadt, Düneberg, Baranovichi, Pinsk, Dubno, and Ternopil. The general outline of this front line did not change until the Russian collapse in 1917. And moving fronts now, after the Battle of Sarıkamış, the Russo-Turkish front quickly turned in favor of the Russian forces. The Turks were concerned with reorganizing their army and committing the Armenian genocide. Meanwhile, Russia was preoccupied with the other armies on the Eastern Front, but however, the appointment of Grand Duke Nicholas Nikolaevich as viceroy and commander of the Caucasus in September 1915 revived the situation of the Russo-Turkish front. When the Allies withdrew from Gallipoli in December, the Caucasus Army's Chief of Staff, General Nikolai Yudenich, believed Turkish forces would take action against his army. This concern was legitimate, as Bulgaria's entry into the war as Germany's ally in October caused serious alarm, as the land route from Germany to Turkey was now open and would allow for unrestricted flow of German weapons to the Turks. A window of opportunity appeared so that would allow the Russians to destroy the Turkish Third Army, as the British required assistance in Mesopotamia, now modern-day Iraq, and British efforts to besiege Baghdad had been halted at Ctesiphon, and they were forced to retreat. This led to an increasing number of attacks by Turkish forces. The British requested the Russians to attack in an attempt to distract the Turks, and Yudenich agreed. The resulting offensive began on July 10, 1916, and this offensive was unanticipated by the Turks, as it was in the middle of winter. The Turkish situation was exacerbated by the Third Army's commander, Kamil Pasha, and the chief of Major Goose absence. Coupled with the imbalance of forces, the Russians had 325,000, while the Turks only had 78,000. The situation appeared grim for the Central Powers. After 3 months of fighting, the Russians captured the city of Trebizond on April 18th, 1916. And that's where we're going to leave off for today. I am going to talk about 1916 to 18 next time, and I'll see you guys then. Goodbye.